Hi guys, a huge advantage journalists like Sam Coates has is that he can speak directly to MPs. Heck, sometimes they come to him if they have some gossip or a scoop. And he was saying that the mood in the Conservative Party at the moment is grim, bordering on chaos. Headless chickens was one way of putting it. The Tories are limping from crisis to crisis. This is the same type of language we were using towards the end of Boris Johnson's time in Number 10. However, the difference this time is that while the party worry about the Prime Minister's ability to lead, they fear that there isn't a viable alternative. However, the more important point is that they're focusing more on internal problems and not those facing the country.
I imagine you've been over in Westminster today talking to MPs, as have I. What are you hearing?
So I've been over in the lobbies for about 6 hours. What you're getting today is despair, uncertainty, a lack of a plan, a kind of resignation about the political situation of the Conservative Party and the Prime Minister. But last week there was something especially toxic in the air. There was something really febrile. There was a mood around for something quite radical. And then Rishi Sunak made clear that the local elections were just going to be the only elections to be held on May the 2nd. And although we've had all these talk over the weekend of, plots involving Penny Mordaunt, which I think mostly were hostile briefings done to her rather than things that anybody with her best interests were putting out there, it doesn't feel today like, having had the early election taken off the table, anybody that I talked to in the Tory party over the last few hours particularly knows what to do, other than it is incredibly bad. So there are headless chickens, there are people despairing, but is there a plan? Is there a plot? I mean, it's not clear.
Yeah, and this sort of idea about it being confusing, because you speak to different people and everyone will agree it's awful, but they're not sure what to do next. A lot of people are talking about May the 2nd now as a real danger point for the Prime Minister. Is that what you've picked up as well today?
Oh, absolutely. Nobody thinks it's going to get any better. And we had a really weird spectacle. Yesterday, Downing Street issued a 2,600-word press release about a speech to be given by the Prime Minister this morning about economic policy, his first since the budget. Rishi Sunak stood up, and it lasted 6 minutes, 40 seconds, most of it a repeat of things he'd said before. Downing Street really struggles to land messages. Downing Street and Rishi Sunak struggle to change the weather. And that's why, if things don't improve and things get worse, and we get to those local elections on May the 2nd, and they are as bad as MPs expect, yes, there'll be more of this. But to what end? Nobody seems sure. Nobody seems to know where to go. There were lots of people coming out wanting even today it to be May, even though the Prime Minister's ruled it out. Some of them just want the pain to end.
You can understand that. Many of them just want the pain to end. Let's just call the general election and be done with it. But as we know, many MPs have bills to pay, especially the younger ones, and they want the election to be held at as late a time as possible. But if Rishi Sunak does say the election is going to be in October or going to be next January, then of course there will be a louder call for him to be removed. There'll be no more time for him to be removed. So there's this internal squabbling going on between Rishi Sunak, Number 10, and the party itself. The MPs. Some of the MPs want him removed. Some of them want him to remain in place. Some of them want him removed and put in somebody like Suella Braverman. Others don't want Suella Braverman in charge. So there's no consistent message within the Conservative Party. And Rishi Sunak doesn't have the spine to face down his detractors, don't face down his opponents, and stamp his authority. When he eventually does stamp his authority, it's way too late and the impact has been reduced. If I were Rishi Sunak, what I would do is I would say the election is going to be on a specific date and go with that. And if people want to remove me, then they'll have to remove me. But I would call for party unity. I would say it's my way or the highway. But instead, what they're doing is they're not focusing on the main issues facing the people. If Rishi Sunak wanted to win, if he wanted to hold on to some seats, he'd actually have to start doing stuff. Dealing with the cost of living crisis, fixing schools, not just talks about plans for the future and criticising the opposition for not having a plan for the future. Like, people are expecting results now, not sometime next year or in the next 5 years. If you want to win over the hearts and minds of the public, you need to do something today. But everything is tomorrow, or next week, or next month, or next year. Until you actually change that approach, you're going to lose. I'm not hoping that Rishi Sunak is even considering this advice, but if I was giving him advice, I would say do something now. Show that you're actually helping people today. Roll out a UBI if you want to, but do something that would be easy for people to see that they're getting support that they need, that they're getting the protection that they need, that they're getting public services being rebuilt. That takes time, and it takes money, and it takes effort. But you've been Prime Minister for a long time now. You could have done it at any stage. You could have got the ball rolling, but instead he engaged in these internal political politics, in-party messes, fights, and it has distracted from him. And instead he's also focused on issues that are not important to the public, like immigration. He's convinced himself, or people around him have convinced him, that immigration is the most important issue on the minds of the public. It's not. Consistently, they say the cost of living crisis. So the party will crash and burn, and it deserves to crash and burn because its focus has always been on the party itself and not the country. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.